quick introduction to CHEM-AQUA. Basically, I'm going to talk a bit about who CHEM-AQUA is and talk about some of the potential cost savings associated with water treatment. CHEM-AQUA is a global water treatment company headquartered in Dallas, Texas, but our Canadian head office is in Brampton, not far from here. You know, we have over 20 production sites worldwide. You could see we're one of the fastest growing water treatment industry in what we call the middle market. Key message when I want to talk about fresh water, not a commodity. We need to not ignore the fact that water is getting very scarce. It's shrinking, the volume of fresh water. You can't ignore it. Majority of arena systems water, wastewater is, as it is considered, sometimes some people consider it free. It's just, I know I've run into a lot of what you call small communities, a lot of small or large facilities that are associated with the city. Say my water is free, I don't have to pay for water. We'll talk about that. Energy cost is rising as well, so potential problems with no or poor water treatment can cost arenas 10 to 20% more in energy costs if it's in comparison to what it's properly treated. So we could talk about a bit about that as well. So what is water treatment? Basically, water treatment takes care of making sure that you do not have issues with corrosion, deposition, or microbiological growth. Microbiological growth, as everybody is maybe not fully aware, is that's where you'll find your Legionnaire's disease growing in your systems. Everybody's aware of what Legionnaire's disease is? No? Do I need to explain it? It's not good. It's not good. You could die from it. How's that? Okay. Little bit about scaled condenser coils. I've seen this in an evaporative condenser. Not fun to see, not fun to clean. That's where you lose a lot of your energy costs. As you can see, 1/32 of an inch of a scale increases compressor energy requirements by 7% and decreases available tonnage by 1%. That's a lot of energy costs associated with that. And 1/30 inch of a scale is a business card. That's how thick that is. It's not a lot. I always tell a lot of people is that if you want to compare what scale does, get yourself an eggshell, put your finger inside the eggshell, and light a match underneath it. Do you feel the heat? No. Take the eggshell out, light a match on top of your finger, you'll feel the heat really fast. Eggshell is scale. Scale is your inhibitor, which covers your condenser pipes and causes yourself to cause that energy increase. That's what water treatment helps you prevent, is keep those condenser tubes clean. Corrosion. Not oftenly found in evaporative condensers, but it does occur. What types of corrosion? You get, sometimes you get a blister on a condenser pipe. If you get a leak of ammonia out of the condenser tube inside your evaporative condenser, you'll have very active corrosion in that area. What causes corrosion? Many attributes to corrosion, especially when you start up a new cooling tower. There's a procedure called passivation. Passivation is very critical to the initial state of your new cooling tower. A brand new cooling tower, and old evaporative condensers 20, 25 years ago, the amount of galvanized on that cooling tower was pretty thick. And you could get away without passivating a cooling tower, but the new technologies that come out with new evaporative condensers, the galvanizing process is very thin and very susceptible to corrosion rates, or what we call white rust. White rust is the effect of having a higher pH in your water going through your cooling tower, and also not having the right water treatment control in the cooling tower. Right there is called white rust. Those little white nodules on that galvanized, it's called white rust. And it's the effect of zinc basically falling off the metal surfaces and exposing the metal surfaces to potential corrosion. Corrosion could also occur inside the cooling tower when there's microbiological attack. This is caused by microbiological attack. We call it microbiological induced corrosion because what happens is that the bacteria grows behind the sludge that builds up inside the cooling tower where the sump is. If you don't clean the sump, if you allow the microbiological to grow, they start eating the metal surfaces. And that's what happens, is that you'll start corroding your sumps and your metal surfaces. So there's many things that causes corrosion in your cooling towers, unsusceptible to a lot of people. So microbiological control, or causes of microbiological problems, is you could get corrosion, metal failure, fouled heat exchangers. Anybody have dogs? You ever, wash the bowl that they drink out of? You'll feel a little slimy. That's fouling. That's microbiological fouling. That's a slime. And the thickness of that scale that we talked about in scale deposition, 1/32 of an inch, the energy consumption of 7% increase in energy costs. If you look at the same thickness of fouling, that's a little severe, but same thickness of fouling, in a condenser tube, you'll get 10 times the loss of energy on microbiological fouling than you have scale deposition. So you're better off having scale deposition than microbiological fouling. If you see slime in your tower, you're going to have problems. Legionnaire's disease. Legionnaire's disease is a bacteria that grows in your cooling tower. You cannot stop it. You cannot kill it. You could control it. Basically what happens is that Legionnaire's disease, or the Legionnaire bacteria, lives in lake waters. The city treats water to provide to us to drink it, but they don't kill Legionella bacteria. Legionella bacteria is not one of the components that people will drink and get sick on. So they don't look at it, they don't guarantee that they control that Legionella. Once that Legionella bacteria grows into your cooling tower, which is the perfect media for Legionella to proliferate and actually multiply and get bigger and bigger. If you don't control it and don't minimize it from growing further than what they are given to you, the Legionella bacteria could come out of the mist of the cooling tower, and that's where you could breathe it in. Once you breathe that Legionella bacteria into your lungs, that's when you get Legionnaire's disease. And that's where you could die from if you don't know if you've received it or not. A little tip, Legionnaire's bacteria in the mist can travel up to 7-mile radius of your facility. If you live near a community, you're at risk. Also, system downtime production can cause that. We talked a bit about the millions of dollars that can reduce the efficiency, reliability, and safety of your facility equipment. So, a couple examples of water savings. Now remember what I said, a lot of people believe water's free. Well, your city treats the water that you drink. That costs money. Once you dump water down the sewer, the city has to treat the wastewater. That costs money. You're part of the city. You're paying for that cost. Somewhere along the way, money is spent to treat the water that goes into your tower and comes out of your tower. It's not free. But taking a look at a typical cooling tower, how it operates, or an evaporative condenser, you always have to have evaporation to cool the water. That water circulates in your cooling system, and as it circulates in the cooling system, it has to make up water for the water losses in evaporation. But to control the amount of solids that build up in that tower, we bleed part of that water to drain so that we control what's called the cycles of concentration. The more I drain out of that tower, the lower the cycles I have. The less I drain, the higher the cycles. Therefore, if I lower the amount of drainage or bleed that I cause, I could increase the cycles. I took an example of a 150-ton cooling tower running 24 hours a day, 180 days of the year at 30% load capacity, so 30% evaporation. You could look at, I use basically $3 per makeup water, 1,000 gallons, and $2.50 or that comes to about $1.50 a cubic meter, which is kind of a common denominator that I found in the industry that people pay for. If I were to take my current cycles, how much gallons of bleed I do, versus my proposed cycles, which is taking it from 3 cycles of concentration. That's cycles of concentration is how many times do I leave the water in a tower before I bleed it. If I go from 3 to 5, you can see I could save up to 400 gallons per day of makeup in the tower. 400 gallons per day. So if you're not concerned with cost, consider the amount of water you're wasting. That's the water savings we're talking about. Proper water treatment allows you to save water, conserve water. You know, we're in an environment where water, I don't know if anybody's read anything about this, you know, the state of California, how they're down to 1 reservoir, and within the 2 years, they will have no more water in California to irrigate, to drink. They won't. 2 years, they'll be dry. They'll be a desert, basically. That's pretty, you know, an impact on us. Canada, well, we got lots of water, but, you know, we kind of forget that. Eventually, I know we're going to be selling water to the U.S. So let's look at, you know, how can we help ourselves conserve water, basically. That's what I'm asking. Energy costs. Example water, oh yeah, here's a little bit of a graph of water savings. Sorry, I was jumping ahead. So annual cost saving, if I were to take $1.50 per cubic meter, I get $3,000 if I were to take that 400 gallons per day savings. So if you look at the numbers of what we're looking at, you know, the water cost is not a lot, but the amount of water is the important things that we got to look at. So here's an example of what water savings occur. If you're running 2 cycles, you could see there's a lot of water wastage. If you run 3 cycles, then as you progress, I always use 5 or 6 cycles of concentration as my optimum cycles of concentration, depending on the area you work in, which area you are at. Some facilities in the Guelph, Brantford, Cambridge area, you can't cycle up too much unless you use soft water. But if you're in many other cities that have lake water, where the, you know, typical conductivity of your water or TDS of your water is around 300, you could operate 5 cycles of concentration. Anything higher than 5 or 6 or 7 higher cycles of concentration, you're not getting the savings. There's no additional savings. You're just accumulating more dirt in your system. But if you're running 2 or 3 cycles and you want to change it to 5, there's lots of savings to be made. Okay? Energy costs. Very realistic value of cost associated with the thickness of scale. This is the same 150-ton cooling tower operating 24 hours, 180 days a year. If you had 0.0025 or 0.005, I brought it up to 0.02. You see, 0.02 is not very thick. It's very thin. And you could start using $2,500 more in energy with that small thickness of scale. That's a 150-ton cooling tower. So any kind of thickness of scale on your condenser tubes will increase energy costs. Consider that. Water treatment will help you minimize that cost, help you conserve that scale deposition potential. Some solutions. Well, what do we have? What's in the water treatment industry? What's new with the water treatment industry? Well, there's ASHRAE guidelines and Cooling Tower Institute guidelines clearly lay out practices for cooling tower treatment. A lot of them say maintain cycles of concentration to minimize deposits and automatically feed sludge and corrosion inhibitors. Controllers like this one allow you to control your conductivity cycles of concentration. So it has a conductivity probe and measures your cycles of concentration and automatically bleeds your system. It also automatically feeds your inhibitors to add the appropriate amount of chemicals to your system to keep those, TDS from depositing. And it also adds the microbiological biocides that you need to maintain that microbiological growth or prevent Legionella from growing in your towers. So biocide programs should include an oxidizer and a non-oxidizer. Feed should be automatically controlled. Time and time again, I do still see people going and feeding biocides manually. That's a human error, could forget unless you log it. And the risk of handling chemicals or any biocides, I tell a lot of my representatives say, don't handle chemical unless you're wearing proper protective equipment. Because biocides, as the name says, kills. So it could kill your skin, burn your skins. So don't spill it or be very careful if you're handling biocides. Filtration is very important to remove the suspended solids. Your cooling tower or evaporative condenser is a big air scrubber. If you have a lot of construction or you're near the woods or you're near any kind of fields, you will get pollen, dust, birds, raccoons, everything in your tower. You need to filter that dirt because chemicals don't stop dirt from coming in or don't stop dirt from settling in your tower. Remember that. Chemicals don't treat dirt. Scale, corrosion, and microbiological. I never said dirt. Chemically clean and disinfect towers a minimum once a year. What do I mean about that? I'll touch upon that a few slides ahead. So some of the new technology that CHEM-AQUA has come out to help in the water treatment industry is, well, we came out with what we call the solid water treatment chemistry. Basically, this was Collingwood Arena. We converted all the liquid chemical pails that they had on the floors, removed the chemical liquid versions of our chemicals, and then converted it to what we call solid feed chemistry. These are paste form, so there's no spillage, there's no liquid contact. The nice thing is that these boards basically dissolve the product, make it into a solution tank, and your chemical pumps that you currently have or upgrade will just suck the juice from there and pump it into your system like a liquid chemical pail would do. Nice technology. A lot of our customers are switching to that, mainly because of floor space, number one, spill containment requirements, health and safety risk. I'm not carrying 50 pounds of container. I'm only using 11 pounds of product now. The nice thing also, it's a green initiative because now you're not, you got what we call recyclable containers. Once these containers are empty, they go in your blue bin. So reduce your landfill as well. That's a nice thing. Anybody going for green initiatives, this is a great way to go because now you're looking at all the nice features about the solid chemistry. So here's another example. See all the liquid drums, the chemical feed station on the wall? Basically got rid of the floor space, hung everything on the wall over there. Now you got working area again. Before you didn't. You had to move all this if you had to work in this area. Another example of an installation of a solid feed system. This guy went all out, put a lot of stainless steel in there, made it really, impressive installation. This was a choice of the customer that wanted to make it look good. Implementation. Well, remember I talked about keeping your towers clean? If you do happen to have a tower that's scaled up, what do I do? How do I get rid of that? Well, CHEM-AQUA has come out with a service organization that helps you maintain and clean your cooling towers or descale your cooling towers. So you could do it yourself or get a mechanic to do it. He'll come in and do his job, and you'll see a lot of the chemicals added in there and everything going everywhere without, and he's not even wearing a PPE and all that. But wrong equipment, wrong safety concerns increases your risk. CHEM-AQUA, highly trained technicians. We train them, we give them respirator, fit tests, we give them all the proper protective training to make sure that they do the things right. We put a lot of investment in making sure that our technicians do the job right. We actually know which chemicals to use, which chemicals to apply to your system. The nice thing is that, the one thing that we do is that we don't pressure wash everything. We have a mild foaming system, It foams your tower. As you can see, there's a lot of foaming going on. So we foam the tower, make sure that the water is contacted on everything that's in there, foams I call it the armor all finish. Basically, it foams the tower, pushes all the dirt and material through the fill or through the condenser tubes, dumps it on the bottom of the basin. Then they come in with a mild washer and wash it down so it cleans. It's chemically cleaning instead of pressure washing, because high pressure washing could do a lot of damage than good. And then once the dirt is all at the bottom of the sump, they vacuum it out. They also clean the decks and the outside if you want them to clean the outside as well to make it look pretty. So all the proper required PPE, specialty, low pressure, high volume equipment, chemical selection expertise. Certificate of disinfection for your record. So that's the one thing that we do for you is after we're completed the work, we come in and provide you before and after report, so show you pictures of the before and after, so you're satisfied that the job was done right. And we give you a certificate for your, let's say your risk, your Legionella risk minimization protocols. You're gonna have a file. Someone says, what are you doing to minimize risk against Legionella? Well, I got a water treatment and I do once a year cleaning and disinfection. Here's my certificate, I've done it. We provide you with that as well.
I guess overall everything went really, really well today. I'm very pleased with the turnout. I was actually quite impressed with the level of questions that were coming from the audience and how engaged they were with the content. And I really think some people are going to act. I think they're going to really look to innovate their facilities and try some of these new products out.